Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mental Health Mondays, where we get to do a deep dive into topics that affect our lives and our well-being. My name is Edward Monene, and I am hosting this. And one of the things that I would like to let you know is that I am a certified mental health coach. I'm not just speaking this conversation out of the blues, Mental Health Mondays, and trying to engage on the same. It's something that I've studied on, read on, so that I can be able to not only deal with my own challenges, because we live in a day where there are a lot of mental health challenges. And sometimes it feels as though this is a new conversation. But allow me to say, as a pastor, when I read through the Bible, I realize that mental health issues have always been there because God created us to live well emotionally. He created us to live well physically. He created us to live well spiritually. And sometimes we ignore the emotional beat and the mental beat because God created us to live well, even mentally. And when we ignore the emotional and we ignore the mental, it affects every other area of our lives. And the conversation that we're going to be having today, as I invite my guest this morning, Naomi Nganga, the conversation we'll be having today is just how does mental health affect our finances, and how do our finances affect our mental health? And Naomi's story is an interesting story. You need to sit back and listen to this as we get to engage together and as we get to deal with this together. And so, Naomi, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and put on your video and come on board. And from there, we can be able to just get to converse together. And so, good morning, Naomi. Karibu sana. I can see that you are ready to go, ready to just get to engage with me. Let me invite you, Naomi, to go ahead and introduce yourself. Let's begin there. If you could go ahead and introduce yourself so that we can be able to proceed from there.
Thank you, Pastor. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
So my name is Naomi Nganga. I am an economist by profession. I'm also a member of ICC Mombasa, that is where I worship. And I did work in financial freedom as one of the discipleship classes when I joined ICC. And I think this has been one of the most important decisions that I made in my life. Yeah, so let me just not say so much now, because I know we're going to have more questions, and maybe from there I'll be able to answer.
Okay. Yeah, maybe because it seems as though you're seated in the office, if you could just tell us, where do you work, and what did you study? Anything that will help our viewers to be able to understand you a little bit more.
I work at a firm called Nippon Koei Company Limited, engineering consultants, and we are currently doing a project in Mombasa, the Mombasa Special Economic Zone development project, and I'm mostly based in the port projects. So my background mostly is in economics and statistics. That was my undergraduate. And I also have a master's in project planning and management. And basically, being part of a class like this, talking about finances, you can see from my background, I am not new to finances. So that is one of the, let me say, the funny parts of this story, because you would think having learned that in school and having knowledge about finances, I'll be able to probably make a better decision in terms of that. So that also will help us to see even the gap, even in terms of our education, in terms of our families and how we grow up and how people are not even taught personal finances.
Thank you. The reason why I wanted you to bring that up is because sometimes we think that people who end up at the place where they have, challenges, for example, from, just having challenges of mental wellness, is because they are not educated or they are not learned. Then we also assume that when people have financial issues and financial challenges, is because they are not educated, they're not learned. And so I just wanted to debunk those, because then the person we are talking with and we are seated with today is a master's degree, is a graduate, not just of a first degree, but of a master's level education, and not just, in some random, topic or course of study, but I mean, you'll be the kind of person that somebody would come to seeking for help and seeking for encouragement and guidance and even advice from. Naomi, let's start at the very beginning. Could you share with us what your financial situation looked like when you first encountered significant challenges?
I think maybe I can just start briefly on maybe where I started. I was lucky enough to start working at a young age. I think I even started working before I graduated, and I got a job in Tanzania, and at some point came back, graduated, then shortly after got a good job, and there was just that part where I felt like I'm doing well, especially for my age, the money that I was earning at that point. And mostly, I think the things that I would think about was, am I actually spending all my money? When my paycheck comes, I'm buying this and making sure that I'm exhausting everything that I have. And that actually just translated to even my late 20s. Even now, having now a partner in my life, where now we are living together and we are spending money to the last cent. Yeah, so you're just thinking, hey, if I've spent, I've bought this, I've paid rent and all this, I have 30,000 left. I need to make sure I have use for this money. So you make sure you're shopping, you're buying stuff, and you have all these things that you have accumulated in the house. You have all these fancy things, and then somehow over time, you're not able to fuel the car mid-month. You're not able to, afford some basic things, and you're wondering what's happening. Because if you just look at it cumulatively, the amount you are earning or the salary that you had, it was a good amount. So you would wonder why is it that we're having this kind of financial problems? And you mid-month you're borrowing money. You're like, I need to get some money from Mshwari so that at least I can finance the rest of the month. You're asking a friend, okay, can you help me with this? I'll give you back next week, all that. But then the kind of life you're living is so appealing to the eyes. People envy you, people see these amazing things, and let me say, addicted to the soft life syndrome, where we glorify that kind of life, and where we, in a society that is glorifying material things and possessions, and that is being equated to growth. So people would say, okay, you're doing well. But at least there's one investment I always say that I made in my 20s that I feel like I didn't waste my money, which is my master's. So that was a good move, at least. That is actually the only thing I have from my 20s. So yeah, so that
Allow
is
me
how
to
we
say
were living.
congratulations.
Thank you.
On that one.
Yeah.
All right. And so that's a kind of life you're living. Borrowing here, getting something there, maintaining a lifestyle. And then what happened? Because from what I've gathered, you're at the place where you're now living with a man, you've gotten married, if I put it that way. and then you have this job, you are studying your master's, and you look like you have it all together. You're doing well. Then what happens?
I think the first blow came when I lost my job at some point, and at that point it was a bit difficult because I had, I think, like a month of saving and maybe some bonuses that I earned at the end of my contract to maybe push me for a few months. But then that was actually very difficult because you realize you're here, but you cannot be able probably to pay rent for the next month or the next 2 months. And that reality hits you. So what do you do? No. So you start thinking of, okay, maybe I can just borrow as I look for a job. I can ask someone to support this as I look for a job. And somehow that also opened up my mind in terms of I would not turn down any type of opportunity. And I remember even some of the jobs that I would do, even people talking behind my back and saying, how come this person is doing this kind of a job with a master's? I've had those kind of conversations. But then that is when the reality hits, when you're not able to even afford food. And as a woman, some basic things, even like sanitary towels, like that hits you so bad because you do not know what to do. You cannot tell your friends or your family that you're not able to afford even sanitary towels. So that was very, very difficult for me. So over time, even as we were living together, COVID hit also at a point. And now that made things extremely difficult for us, yeah. So there was a lot of expenses in terms of where we were living. The house was very expensive at that point. So even being able to raise the rent for a month from what I was getting from the side hustles was quite difficult. So over time, the rent arrears were huge. They were huge. But then we do not want to move out because why would we move out and people to see that we're struggling and we're having all these kind of issues? So you get to a point where you're borrowing much from family, from friends, you have people bailing you out from those kind of issues. You're struggling with food. You at some point you just do the morning meals and evening meals, and you resort to cereals completely specific to a point where that now becomes your go-to situation every day. So at that point, I remember one day coming home and finding a letter from the auctioneer on the door. And of course, basically, as much as we're having financial issues, that really also affected our relationship. There was a lot of issues in terms of the lies, and you're not able to fully open up about what is happening. So I found out that even my partner had certain types of loans that I didn't know about, and like we were being auctioned in 2 days, and there's nothing much I could have done. And trying to think, okay, probably I can rescue some stuff, or probably I can remove some stuff. Already the management is aware. Everyone is ready. They are waiting for you to remove stuff so they can even arrest you. So that is when the first auction happened. So we got auctioned, everything in the house, any type of asset that we had, that was gone. And then that meant you have to move out. You can't stay also in the same place. So we moved to a cheaper place, a smaller place. And then, funny enough, we did not learn our lesson. We still kept making the same bad decisions. Yeah. So you still don't want to admit. Yeah. You still don't want to admit that you're in trouble, and you keep borrowing. You have all these mobile apps. I think we know Cashway. I don't know, you have Tala, you have KCB M-Pesa, you have a loan from the bank, you have all these kind of things that have put you in trouble. But you end up, because now you have to eat. Yeah? And then you have people who are actually threatening you. Why are you not paying my money? I'll do this and this. So you borrow here to repay here. And there's that interest that is just accumulating and just dragging you down. So that is where now we also lost where the second option, like I normally say, the second option came in, and we lost.
So you're saying you auctioned twice?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, continue.
Yeah, so yeah, that is now where life hits, and you're like, okay, so what do I do with my life? And everything you work towards, you do jobs, everything I would earn is just going back to repaying debt. So there was a lot of just emotional anguish. I was devastated. Just looking at everything I had worked for in my 20s just go down the drain in a few days and all that. And I was so overwhelmed. And I was so lost. I think those moments are the moments you just look at yourself and you wonder, do I really even need to move on or live this kind of life? You know?
Yeah.
And the shame now comes in. There's a lot of shame that comes in. I was embarrassed because the way my family knew me and the way my friends knew me, the decisions that I make, I'm the kind of person, and I'm sure some of my friends are here, and actually they're hearing most of these stories the first time. They're shocked because that does not reflect who I am or the kind of decisions that I normally make. So I had to hide. I hid, and I was hiding my pain. I was hiding my shame, and
Allow me to allow me to cut you a little before we get to your hiding. So that we can be able to frame this in a way the people listening are able to actually begin to track the conversation, because this is a mental health conversation, not a finance conversation. And the question I want to ask is, I know experiencing bad debt and facing the reality of auctioneers is extremely stressful. And I can't even begin to imagine how you felt. And you've mentioned shame and hiding and all that. But I want to just ask you, Naomi, how did this impact your mental health? And the whole situation that you are facing, and how did it affect your relationships? How did it affect your interactions with people? Just talk to us about that.
I think, as I was saying, the shame first came. That attacks you. You're embarrassed because, especially the neighbors, the stories that were going around, and just feeling like you need to live the life that you're living and move to a situation that you fully do not understand. So first I was angry. I was so angry. I was so angry even at my partner for the decisions that he had made that put us in that situation. And I found myself crying, like I was crying myself to sleep most of the time. I was, I was embarrassed. My self-esteem just went completely downhill. And I felt like a failure. I felt like a complete failure. I was hopeless. I felt like, at what point did I get to this? And even when I was trying to look at the whole thing and trying to figure out how will I get out of this, there was no point where I saw an exit. Yeah. I felt like I was done. This is it for me. And I didn't know how to process that. I think that was the part where you feel numb. You have these sleepless nights. When you see people, you avoid them. You do not show up for events, and you're in that kind of pain where you do not want to talk to people. So this meant that secluding myself, isolating myself from my friends, from my family. And I remember even my parents at that point asking, what is going on? Like, we are not hearing you. Even when we try to call you, we cannot reach you. There was just so much going on. And there was that kind of guilt and shame that was hitting me up. Even if people didn't know, I knew like my life was over. yeah, so at least that point drove me to that level. I was just feeling, no, this is it, this is it, this is me at rock bottom, and I'm done with my life.
Wow. And I'm just processing what you're saying. And many people struggle in that place. And you've said it, you've nailed it. There was isolation, there was shame, there was coming to the place where you feel like you're at the rock bottom. You can't see how you'll ever get to from where you are. And in such situations, many people struggle to even acknowledge what they're facing and what they're going through, the financial difficulties, the stigma that comes. What was a turning point in your life? Was there a turning point? Because I think there's a turning point, but what was a turning point? What made you to even begin to think I can be able to get out of this?
I think first was feeling, the sadness and the lack of peace that I was feeling at that point. And there was a feeling that I needed to reclaim my joy and reclaim my sanity. And also just realizing the social cost of all these financial decisions that I had made, and realizing that I'm losing people that I cared about. I'm losing my friends, I'm losing family, and these people are part of my support system. And just coming to that point where I said, I do not want my life to be a sad story. I think, Pastor, you've ever had me say that so much. Like I was tired. I was tired of being associated with this kind of character, because it affected actually even my credibility and my integrity. And I seemed like I was a liar. I seemed like, I swindle people, or those kind of situations. And you get to a point where you want people to see who you are, to maintain your character, your integrity, and the things that you value and the things that you stand for. So I think at that point, just seeing how much I had misrepresented myself through these decisions, and how people perceived me, and realizing that I'm fighting a battle that I'll never win. I think that was one of the major turning points. I just saying, I'm tired. I'm tired of this life. I'm tired of sleepless nights. I'm tired of feeling hopeless, and I'm tired of, feeling like this. So I knew I had to take actually drastic decisions, and I didn't know how to proceed, but I knew I had to do something about it, and probably seek help and find ways I can be able to restore my life and rebuild myself.
Wow. We are having a conversation with Naomi Nganga on issues of mental health and finances, and how mental health affects finances, and how finances affect mental health. And she's taken us through what I can call part one, looking at her life and talking about just what she went through. And I don't know whether you can imagine just being able to go through and facing what she faced. And I'd like us to continue with this conversation. And for those of you who might have come in and you weren't there at the beginning, Naomi talked to us about how she went through two auctions. She was auctioned twice, as in her things were taken, and you're left with nothing. And she made a comment which for me is very sad but real, where she said everything she worked for in her 20s is gone. She doesn't have it. That all that was taken away. And I want us to dig deeper in this conversation as we go on. But let me also say Naomi is a graduate. She's a holder of a master's degree. And so this conversation is not, she didn't get into this place because she was not educated. And Naomi, you said something very interesting as we continue here. You said you stayed in a big house and you spent money the way you did because people needed to see that you guys are doing well and all. And it's interesting how many times people do those kind of things. You stay, you continue accumulating debt, you continue digging a hole, and yet there are things that you can do that you can be able to get out. Now, allow me to ask you this question. From your experience, how do you think financial stress contributes to mental health issues? Can you share any specific instances where you felt your mental health was directly impacted by your financial state?
I think definitely financial stress. I think it impacts actually mental health in a big way, because first, beyond the issues of struggling with self-esteem, you have that constant pressure and anxiety in your mind all the time. Will I meet the person I owe money? Should I change the route? Should I, what do I do when people are calling and you can't pick? And the way, like these mobile apps, the way they call you, they insult you, they call you names, they threaten to call your family and people at work, and you just are constantly worried about what is going to happen. And those kind of things, I think they just.
Let me cut you a little bit.
Yes.
So you're working and you still have all this going on because they're threatening to call your workmates.
I think at that point I got an additional job. Okay. I got a job in Parklands. That time I was living in Nairobi. And then I was still running a business at the same time because I have to try and make sure that I'm earning enough to at least even offset some of the debts, and that even we have enough to eat, all those kind of stuff. So I'm working a job where I'm standing most of the time. I would walk, I think, from Parklands to town so that I don't pay fare, so that I'm at least saving to the last coin. But it's never enough. Like, it was never enough. So you in the morning, I think one of my cousins would drop me in Westlands. I walk to Parklands. Then in the evening, I walk to Ngara or to town. So at least I pay fare one way from town, maybe to that time I was staying in Rwaka. So you have all these, you're trying to compile all these things, the business and all that, and you have all these troubles. And unfortunately, at that time, I was also pregnant. So it was very difficult. So there's, I think, let me say two instances, but let me say the one that really scared me the most is one time I was living, I think, where I was working for an Indian guy, and unfortunately and sadly, situations where people insult you and you do not know what to do. So I was so stressed. And I remember I was crossing somewhere around Museum Hill, and I was almost hit by a car. And I realized I did not actually check. I did not, the way we are told, look right, left, and then if it's clear, I did not. And I didn't realize. So I remember the guy, I think they had a black Mercedes Benz, I think a C200, and he just came out of the car and he asked me, what is wrong with you? So he was insulting me and saying these kind of things. And then at a point he realized, I think this lady is not okay. And he told me, you need to be more careful. You will die here. You need to be more careful. I always remember that. You need to be more careful. You will die here. And even I think I just crossed the road and sat somewhere. There was some grass there, and I sat and I was shaking. And I realized I could have died just like that. And you're walking around as a zombie. You do not process things. Even when people say hi, you're like, oh, hi. You're like, oh, you look beautiful today. Oh, like, oh, okay. You do not even believe that. You do not feel that even inside you. Another instance I had is where as I was doing business, so of course I would come very late, and then maybe after work I do a few deliveries here and there, and then maybe to collect the stock. There's some shops in town that I would store my stuff, and then so I carried some of the stuff so that I can deliver in the morning to someone. So I was super tired, so I left. I think the office around 8. By the time I get to town, so I was leaving town I think around 9:30. So unfortunately, I slept in the matatu. So I'm sleeping, and then I realized nimepitisha. I live in Raka and I'm huko Ndenderu, I'm past Ndenderu, and I need to alert the vehicle. So I realized, okay, please just stop the vehicle. So of course, my first instinct was just alight the vehicle. So everything that carried all the stock I had for that to deliver to my client the following day, I forgot about it. I actually forgot. So when I got home, I realized I had stuff that I left in the car. Now I had already taken like 50% from the client, and they need the delivery tomorrow. I do not know what to do. And those kind of instances, there were so many of them where you're constantly just walking around, not realizing what is happening. You do not enjoy any moments. You do have joy, just those kind of things.
Yeah. Something that you have just said that I'd like to use. So you're actually losing more money and getting into more trouble because of the state that you're in. Because when you take 50% from a client and then you leave the goods in a matatu, in the vehicle as you're commuting, then it means that you end up in a worse state because now you have to get the goods and still deliver. Interesting. In what ways do you believe mental health influences one's financial decisions and behaviors?
I think that is very key in terms of how you do your daily decisions, especially the finances. And I think even in the class that we have done, the classes we have done, I think you've heard me so many times say that I was an emotional spender. I still feel that I have those kind of aspects where my spending is influenced by my emotions and the way I feel. So that meant if at that point I was in that kind of mental state and emotions, then I would get to a point where I'm like, by the way, I actually deserve this nice dress. After all these stresses that I'm in, I feel like I need to reward myself. I need because people will still eat my money somehow, and some people will still waste it somehow. So I'd rather waste it myself, So you find that your decisions are influenced by how you're feeling. And unfortunately, in that season, I also lost my dad. And that really brought in now the aspect of grief. And now thinking about my emotions and my spending, I would stress it. I would, and I feel like I deserve this chicken. People do not care about me. No one has any, like you have all these thought process that is going in your mind. You feel useless, you feel hopeless, and you're like, it's me and my money. Let me just do what I can be able to do. And even like for example, buying, the impulse buying, it used to make me feel good about myself. So it's something that I am replacing my self-worth. I'm attaching my self-worth and my self-esteem to these things I'm buying. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to go somewhere and splash 10,000 on clothes because these people will know I am the one who is in charge and I am the one who is, so those kind of feelings, there's those kind of good feelings that you feel when you're spending that kind of money. Yeah, so generally, even pleasing people, actually, that's something else I struggled with. And I want to show people that I can be there for them the way they are not there for me at that point. So I am like, okay, let me do this. People are supposed to do this. I give 5,000. People are giving, I don't know for what, for fundraisers. I give this, I give this. So I am not able to even prioritize my needs and my basic things because I'm there following my emotions and feeling like, today I feel like this, let me do this. Yeah, I'm not able to plan my purchases. I'm just there. I go with the mood, and my financial decisions are dictated by how I felt at that moment and what it would make me feel. Yeah.
From what I'm hearing is that here you are, you have all these pressures, you have all this stress, all these issues that you're dealing with. And now to be able to cope, you're trying to create can I call it a false image or a false reality? because your life is completely not enjoyable because of what you're facing, then you turn around and begin to try and create an enjoyable lifestyle for yourself, which is temporary, you know. But let's combine that with the question, how did you get out? As in, I'm listening to you, Naomi, I'm thinking all this pressure, all these issues, how did you end up getting out?
Um, I think, let me say, anger helps when you're angry. And uh, I
That's
was
a good
so
one.
angry. I was so
Mhm.
angry at, especially, unfortunately, my ex-partner in this situation. I was so angry. And when I was repaying the debt, and that's something else I also missed, I think, when we were talking about like losing my 20s. It did not just do that. I actually now lost, I felt like it was still in my future, because now when I have to pay debts, now I'm working, I have to pay debts from my previous situation, that I do not know where the money went in some situations. And I was so angry. And each time I paid an installment, I would go and treat myself equally to make myself feel better in that case. But then I realized it's getting worse, because now I'm by myself and my situation is not changing. Yeah. I'm in this situation where I'm still not able to manage my expenses until end of month. I have much of my month left than my money is left, where you're spending, and mid-month you go like, why do I get transport? You're in every point when you go to a restaurant, and you're like, and I realized there's something about what I was doing that was also wrong. And I needed to first acknowledge that some of those habits were not just from someone else. There were some things that I also reinforced myself. And I needed to first stop and do some type of self-evaluation and see, what is it that I'm doing wrong? What is happening? And I had done Anchor. I think I did Anchor before I did the Working Financial Freedom class. And that has given me just some kind of breakthrough in terms of what was happening in my life. And I realized that first, I was at a negative net worth. I am buying things I do not need. I have a wardrobe of clothes that I have not worn for 6 months or a year, new clothes that I had not worn. I had unnecessary things. And at that point, I knew you have to make a change. And I needed to make a commitment and create that kind of discipline for me to make any meaningful change for myself. So that meant I had to sacrifice a lot. And at that point, even when I came but now to Mombasa, and I knew there's no way I can live the same way I was living and achieve the things that I want to achieve. So that meant go back to the basics. Go back to the basics. I'm able to get a house where I can stay. I have a bed. I'm able to cook for myself. I'm able to have a good place to sleep and rest. And I'm able to provide the basic things for myself. And then the rest of the money, I can free it up so that I'm able to see what is it that I can do with my money. If it's the debt, like I needed to know, who do I owe? How much do I owe them? And even my friends. And I think for me, that's the first people I repaid. As much as I was still repaying the other loans, I needed to repay the people who are in my circle, my support system, my family, my friends, because we do not actually internalize the and I think I spoke about that at some time about the social cost of this kind of behavior. And I realized I needed to mend relationships. I needed to apologize with action and show them that it was just a season that had brought me down, and that is not who I am. So I think that started with that, starting to first review my character, rebuild who I am, even to the people who support me, so that I have enough support system now to make the other steps. Yeah, so a lot of sacrifice, a lot of it, and just understanding that I will not fit in events. I will not be invited. Actually, there's a point I was even told that they don't think I can afford, so I wasn't invited. Being able to see people do other things that I'm not able to do. And yeah, so just a lot of sacrifice. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I love what you have said, and I'd like to just sort of relook at it, for the sake of just the people who are here. Number one, you said that you began to learn. You engaged in, I believe it's classes, a class called Anchor and a class called Working in Financial Freedom. And out of those classes, you began to look at the, just what you were doing was wrong, and you needed to be able to change those, and that you began to work on your social system as you began to repay. Now, you're learning about finances, you're learning how to work in financial freedom, but I just love the way you mentioned. You said you needed to repay your social support system first. In essence, you began to work on your mental health. It's not just repaying debts for the sake of repaying debts. It's beginning to work on your mental health so that you can be well. And so you began to pay your social system, and you're rebuilding that. And I really applaud you for that. And maybe just to ask, but this is just, how do I ask this? uh, as you began to go through these classes and you're getting financial empowerment, how did the knowledge and skill that you gained from the class, and maybe specifically working perspective, how did the class help you from a mental health perspective?
I think for me, first is, let me say, the peace of mind. The peace of mind that came from that. Just that realization that I'm learning new things I did not know. And for me, the class being based on a godly perspective and understanding that God wants so much for me, that He wants me to thrive, He wants me to live in abundance. And that gave me a lot of courage, because I knew every time I'm waking up and making a good decisions towards all these things, I feel good. I feel like I'm honoring God, and I'm serving God, and I'm serving myself, because I feel that first purpose, understanding that first purpose is to myself. And I needed first to correct the things that were wrong in my life. So I was able to sleep. I think that was one of the amazing things, where I'm actually able to sleep and not dream about I don't know who. And then, when the way you have all these people you owe money, they appear so big in your dreams and they look like giants. And just being able to have a peaceful night, being able to rebuild my character, my integrity, my credibility, that people, when they speak about me, or when they look at me, the things that they see, I'm representing the values that I want in my life. So that helped me a lot, because I was able to also redefine those kind of values and say, I want to be this person who is, people can count on. People know, like, she's faithful. Yeah, she's in charge. She's in control of her finances. She's serving, and all that kind of things, that going through the classes and learning all the lessons and being transformed from not just my heart and the way I was thinking, gave me so much freedom. And there was that fulfillment that comes with that kind of process when you're making progress, and just saying, today I actually have 500 savings, or I have repaid, or I exited. I think I remember that time when I was able to repay my Fuliza amount, and I exited, and I sent the message in the group, and I was like, I'm so happy seeing Safaricom say that we are sad to see you leave. And I was like, I'm so happy. And that kind of joy that comes from regaining your life, and waking up feeling fulfilled. And you're able to even focus on other things. I think that's something most of people do not think about when you look at finances. Because when you're constantly stressing about debt and I don't know who you owe, or I'm not able to do this for myself, it steals so much from me. It steals the ability to be creative. It steals the ability to even be there for family and friends. It steals, that kind of your gifts and talents. You're not able to even use them because every time you wake up, you're just thinking about, nitakutana na nani, nitanini, nitalipa aje. But then I was able to free myself and free my mind to focus on the things that God wants me to focus on. And also now making the choices and feeling like I'm in control and feeling in charge. I think that was the best part. And for this moment, it was like, I'm actually in charge. I know where to put my money. I can tell it, go end up 30% go here, do this. I'm able to give. Like I remember I would not even be able to tithe or give anyone because I was like, how am I going to be able to tithe with all this? But now I'm able to give. I'm able to, to be present and to make choices that I want. This means my money was now not controlling me because now when it's about debt, you have to pay, or the bank will come for you, or people will come for you. Yeah. So that kind of freedom is something that I really enjoyed in this process, and I'm still enjoying up to this point.
Thank you, Naomi. I have 3 questions that I want to merge together. One is when did you do the class Walking Financial Freedom? Just to be able to know where you are at. Number 2, the question I have is how are your finances today? Are you in debt? Are you in trouble? Did you get out completely? Do you have assets? Are you rebuilding yourself? And the third question, because I'm mixing these questions together, is you mentioned at the beginning you are in a marriage, in a relationship, you were pregnant, but as you're talking now, you keep it's like those things are no longer there. You're not mentioning them, and because this is a mental health conversation, how much did you lose because of not being in a good place mentally, that today you would look at and say, if only I had worked this differently, I would not be where I am today?
I did a class in 2022, I think the August-September class. And over time, I worked through a process to, of course, repay my debts. Because for me, that was my first priority, even going to the class. I needed first to free myself of that. And I was able fast to repay that because I knew there's no way I can be able to make any type of progress if I was not free from that. So currently, I am so happy to say I have a positive net worth. I was able to actually live in debt free. Very possible, my friends. Actually, it's very possible to live debt free. And there are so many conversations that go around debt, about good debt versus bad debt. And I think that is not something I want to go into. But then again, there's a certain type of freedom that comes when you live in debt free, because now I'm able to put my investments up. I'm able to fund an emergency fund because now I know in case I lose my job, I want to have enough time to survive before I'm able to get something else or before I rebuild myself. So I'm able to put that. So I'm not ambushed by emergencies. I'm not ambushed by, I don't know, gas in Asia. I don't know what to do at night. I don't know, those kind of small things that we ignore, but they ambush and throw us into this kind of small loans and all that. So I've been able to plan out that well. I have clear financial goals and a financial structure that has helped me rebuild myself. And even that emergency fund, I know at least I'm okay for now for 6 months, but then I have a target of a year or 2. So that kind of patience to rebuild that my finances.
Just a moment as you proceed.
Yes.
You said you have an emergency fund for 6 months.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, Naomi.
Thank you.
And this is less. This is a year and maybe 4 months, 5 months
Yes.
from the time you did the class.
Yes.
Wow. And you have assets. I'm just looking at
Yes.
the things that you have
I was lucky because I think one of the good things that happen with when you purpose to do something, even when I was repaying my debt, I was so lucky. Like God would send a lot of unexpected money, like a lot of unexpected money. I would do simple things, even like some task I think I'm doing pro bono, and someone sends me something. It's like, okay. So for me, I'll put that out to repay my debt. So that intention of rebuilding my life gave me so many opportunities. And when I got any unexpected money, I knew where to put it. And that's the best part about having a plan. Whether you're not there already, you have something, you know your desk. Even if you get like 50,000 somewhere, you know where to put it because you have that kind of clarity about your financial process and where you are at with your finances. So I was lucky to get an opportunity to buy an asset from someone who was disposing, like he was desperate to sell a piece of land for a situation that was an emergency for them. But then that became no opportunity. But then I realized if I had not done all these things, then I would not have been able to take up that opportunity. So it was easy for me to say I can do this. I was like, I have this savings, let me give you this, and then I'm able to give you half of my salary for the next 2, 3, 4 months, and I'll be able to be done. And that arrangement was done. And yeah, I have property. I think that is nice from someone who was really struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have property, you have 6 months, worth of your salary saved as an emergency, and you have paid all your debts. You don't have debts. Naomi, I really, really celebrate what you've been able to accomplish. But there was a third bit of
Yes.
the question.
Please remind me.
No, I just wanted, because you're coming to the end of our conversation, I just wanted you to help every person who is listening, and so that we're not left with some questions in regard to, you mentioned at some point you were in a relationship, and you talked also about being pregnant at the point when you almost got hit by a car, and for all these things, because I'm looking at it and the question I'm asking is just the impact of not being well mentally and what it costed you.
I think personally for me, I lost close to, because even the debt I was repaying at that point cumulatively was close to 1.5 million. But then, of course, I had lost other kind of situations. So that was probably over and above 2 million. But then maybe as a household, that was a little bit more. And at our age, recovering from such a loss is so huge because you had taken a lot of time to build that kind of a net worth there. So, yeah, so I can say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your partner still there?
I think so. Maybe somewhere in this Kenya. No, we are not together. But I think there's a point I even told one of my friends that when I was doing the class, I actually shared some of the books that we got from the class. And I even forgave even places where there was outright debt that was owed to me. And I told them, everyone is rebuilding their life. I hope you can learn the lessons that we have from the mistakes that we have made, because that's also something else. You can keep making mistakes, and if you don't learn the lessons, you're going to find yourself in trouble over and over again. Yeah, so you have to make sure you're learning from your mistakes and you're changing that kind of cycle. Because if you want any type of meaningful change or growth in every aspect actually of life, you have to break the cycles that you're in. So I hope he was able to do that. We do not speak, unfortunately, but I think that is for something that I just do for my own mental health.
Naomi, as we bring this to a close, what would you say to somebody who is listening to us today, who might be at the place where they have financial debt, they're keeping on making the mistakes, they're not thinking about their mental health, they're not prioritizing their mental health, and it's causing them to go on a downhill because uh, your relationship broke, you lost so much money, almost came to the place of losing your own life, and you were able to get out. What would you say to somebody who might be at the same state, or maybe they don't realize that they're going downhill, but little by little they're digging a pit? What would you say to us as a final word?
I think first just live below your means, not even within your means, below, like below your means completely. Because if you're getting into financial trouble, there's something you're doing wrong. So you need to sit, reassess yourself, and realize all these things, the things you're paying, your expenses, and all those things. Are you living below your means? Because that below your means will cushion you for any type of trouble that comes in. It will help you rebuild, it will help you save, it will help you invest, and it will just give you, in case of anything, like especially right now when you have a lot of economic issues and economic fluctuations. Even when there's trouble, you're able to just be fine because you've left a margin for yourself to rebuild your life. Secondly, do not compare yourself to that will not only steal your joy, but also your paycheck. Because if you comparing yourself, it means you are going to be doing or spending money that you do not have actually to finance those kind of lifestyle. And thirdly, be content in this journey. Be content in God's provision. You need to go and sit and just be saying, God is my source. I want to be content in his provision. Then you go back so that even when there's anything that is coming, you're able to look at your journey and say, I'm on this journey. Even now, right now, I have friends, very good friends who are doing well. I have people around me who do well and they progress, and I'm able to be happy for them and just say, this is good. I'm happy you're doing this. But that does not make me feel like I need to now go and start doing what they're doing because I've been able to create that kind of contentment in my life. And that doesn't mean I do not still have dreams or I have my own desires or the things I want to achieve in my life. It just helps me to stay sane and not be desperate because those desperate situations are the ones that are going to put you in trouble. So be content in your journey. Walk with what you can, what God has given you. Because even if you earn 1,000,000 shillings or 5,000,000 shillings and you spend it all, then you're even worse off than someone who is saving 5,000 or 1,000 bob even every day or a month. Yeah, so be content with that journey. And the other great, amazing part is just allow God to be there. I do not know why we separate our financial journeys from God and we feel like that needs to be a separate journey. He knows your needs and He's going to provide for you and He will guide you even in your plans and the things that you're doing.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Naomi. It was such a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing with us your story. As we bring this to a close, I don't know whether you would encourage people to do the Walking Financial Freedom class. I will leave you to say that. But allow me to say to every person who is watching, there's a class called Walking Financial Freedom that will be very good for you to do. Secondly, I'd like to say, please do not ignore your mental health. Because if you ignore your mental health, you continue to go downhill and you can end up in a really, really bad place. For those of you who are employers, for those of you who work in management, for those of you who work in HR, whatever field you might be in, it's important to think about the people that you work with and ask yourself, how are they doing? Because, Naomi was still reporting at her workplace. She's having this job, she's having that job, but yet she was in trouble, and it's like no one got to know. Even friends. I mean, it's very easy to watch our friends really just crash because we never get to think about the mental health of the people that we are interacting with. And so we are seeking to start a conversation here and say, hey, don't ignore mental health. It's such a key issue and a key area, and it can cause you to end up losing so much. And please take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, and seek learning, seek to get information and knowledge. Because as Naomi said, she joined the class, and in that class, she got to begin to learn some things, and that class provided a framework, as in she didn't get any new money, but she was able to get out of debt because there was that community support, there was the lessons that she's learning, there's encouragement to apply, and her life radically changed. And I celebrate you, Naomi Nganga, that you are debt-free, you're building your life, you're saving, you're growing. That's amazing. And so final question before I pray and release people, would you encourage people to do Working in Financial Freedom?
Absolutely. I think that would be the best decision, the best gift you give yourself. Someone asked me yesterday, what is the most expensive gift that you've ever given yourself? And I think it's this class, because what I'm able to put aside and what I'm able to rebuild and what I've been able to learn will last me a lifetime. And even my future, my family, my future kids will find a mother who knows her finances, who will teach them the ways of the Lord in terms of the money principles, and literally just leave them an inheritance for them to, to enjoy. So it is 100 more than, I think it's not even 100%. It's one of those things that saves you money. Yeah, so saves you money.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring this to a close. The class Naomi is talking about costs just 3,000 shillings. It's not expensive. It's 300 shillings a session because it's 10 sessions. And it will change your life. In less than a year, in less than 2 years, you've had the story of Naomi Nganga. But as I get to release us, please take care of your mental health. Ensure that you have mental peace. Ensure that you are feeding your mind, you're educating yourself, you're watching out for your social support system, because when we lose our social support system, when we lose our peace, when you come to the place where you're not even sleeping at night, it becomes very difficult to work on your finances or any other area of your life for that matter. And so let's release you today. I really appreciate you, Naomi Nganga. I celebrate you. Thank you for being our guest. And continue to build, continue to be the woman who makes a difference and influences wherever you go. Let's pray, people, and bring this to a close. Heavenly Father, thank you for the session that we have had. Thank you for Naomi and just the story that she has shared. It's my prayer that, Father, every one of us will go and begin to work on our mental health. And especially, Father, seeking to learn, seeking to grow, seeking to use our finances the way we ought to. And I pray, Father, that there will be a radical difference in our lives. Bless Naomi, be with her, give her a great day. And the rest of us, Father, I pray that you give us a great day and a great week. In Jesus' name, amen. 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 Thank you so much for being part of Mental Health Monday. Naomi Nganga, thank you so much. Everyone else who joined in, we really do appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Have an amazing, amazing rest of the week. We'll put up this video on YouTube. We'll put it up on Facebook, and we encourage you to be able to get a hold of it and share it with as many people as you can, because we need to help people realize that mental health affects their finances, and their finances affect their mental health. It's a vicious cycle. If you don't take care of your mental health and if you don't take care of your finances, they continue to bring you to a place where it becomes very difficult to live. I am glad Naomi Nganga turned things around. As she began to take charge of her life, she began to learn, she began to apply the lessons, and her life was changed. I pray that many, many more people will do the same. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Naomi. Barikiwa sana. That was an engaging conversation. Enjoy the day, even as you go to work. Everyone else, enjoy the day. Yeah, asante, Naomi. Kwaherini.